Welcome to my podcast, Why Get Wasted? Innovative Solutions to Climate Change. I'm so excited you found us. In this podcast, I'll be talking with really interesting people who've come up with innovative solutions for tackling climate change. There's so much fear and discouragement now, and I know we can all feel helpless to do anything about what we see and know is happening with our planet. But people are creative and resilient, and they can be really smart, and often in times of crisis, really step up to the plate. So I wanted to draw attention and talk further to some people who've come up with their own way to help all of us fight for our planet. And now a little bit about me. My name is Liz Entin, and I'm the founder of Why Get Wasted. We offer customized plans for businesses and events, both personal and professional, to help them be more climate friendly and sustainable. We've worked with everything from festivals and concerts to fashion shows, and even your kid's birthday party or your own dinner party. While doing this, I've just met some really inspiring people. And now I want to share their stories, the companies they've created, and the solutions they've come up with all of you. We can all work together to fix this. And now I hope you enjoy this episode of Why Get Wasted? Innovative Solutions to Climate Change. Okay, today I'm speaking with Sonia Ketkar of LiveGreen NYC. Welcome, Sonia.
Hi, Liz. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for coming on. I'm so excited to talk about LiveGreen NYC. I know we've talked about it some, and I think it's just a great mission. So tell us a little bit what it is.
So, LiveGreen NYC is a platform that helps New Yorkers, so consumers, make greener as in local and sustainable food choices. And these choices include everything from buying food to storing food to discarding food. So we kind of help them, through guides, which is just published material on our website, but also live events and workshops, which is really suitable for beginners who are new to sustainability or who want more of the, personal interaction, being able to ask questions as opposed to just reading stuff on, websites and then having to figure out the steps yourself. So we do a lot more of that step-by-step hand-holding for folks who want it and who need it. And then we also have, these, so it's kind of threefold. So that's one part of it. The second part is we have a directory which is hand curated of local and sustainable food producers, sellers, makers in the New York City area. So the New York City area is roughly, about 200 to 300 miles around the city. And that would be for folks who kind of know what they're looking for, and they just want suggestions and ideas. And it saves people a lot of time because otherwise it's so time consuming to do all that research. And what we're also doing is we're building a community because that's the sort of most important part of all of this, which is a community that is supporting change and inspiring everyone else around them.
So how are these businesses curated, or who does the curating? Is it you? Do you find experts?
Yes, a lot of it is, so I'll address the first part. So finding these companies, a lot of them is through referrals, personal experience. Just some of them are just, I just accidentally come across them. So yeah, I'm spending a lot of, or I spent a lot of time kind of putting all of this together and continue to do that as well, with some help from, folks who are also doing the research. The second part of it is once we have an idea that these are suitable candidates for the directory, the next step is going deep into the research, using public information. So the way we sort of identify them or go deeper into, the sort of the research to include them, one of them is if they're accredited by a third party independent organization for meeting some kind of sustainability criteria, then of course that's one of the ways in which we say that, okay, you can be in the directory. Another one is, but as you know, or take the organic certification, for example. There are a lot of farms that don't want to get certified because, there are certain criteria that they have to meet to get the certification. And they're actually going above and beyond that, into like regenerative agriculture or ethical treatment of animals, which surpasses what the organic accreditation requires. So we also take those into consideration. And since we're on the topic of organic, I also want to tell you that for a lot of the farms that are listed in the directory that are organic, we make sure that we go to the USDA website and look at their certificate. So we're like, matching that. Some of those certificates are also linked on our website. So consumers can look at it themselves, and know what they're certified for. So we try to make sure that there's proof for as much as we can gather. We also include those where like their mission is sustainability, whether that is um, a company like Nut Hatch, which is they make like local plant-based milk, and they do this by upcycling a lot of food. They make sure they use glass bottles and not plastic. And I could go on with the examples, but basically it's like it has to be part of their business model or it has to be accredited. And those are the ones that get into the directory.
Yeah, I was thinking about the certification. I don't know. Do you know it? Like with organic, they have to pay an astronomical amount. I don't know if you
Yes.
know the amount. I don't offhand. I think it's like 10,000. So smaller farms that are going above and beyond. It's putting in more money there to be ethical, therefore making less, aren't organic legally. So yeah, that's stuff I've learned kind of poking around the farmers market. So
Yeah, absolutely. And actually that's a great point that you bring up about, well, the cost, of course, but also the fact that the farmers market is such a great place to just go and find these folks. If you you can use a directory, but you can also physically go and meet them and just ask them about their practices, farming practices, their how they think through things. And I think that's a wonderful opportunity that the farmers markets provide.
do you ever feel a little torn like about certain brands? Like I know some of my favorite brands, they follow such tight ethical treatments like of how the cows are treated for milk, and then they're in plastic bottles. So it's like I feel like there's a lot of trade-off in this industry or in this lifestyle. Do you notice that too?
Absolutely, 100%. And one of the other goals of our platform is to also not expect perfection, and because at the end of the day, where if you're trying to do your best, you're trying to do your best, right? But there are so many price limitations and cost limitations and other issues and sourcing limitations because, sometimes it's not possible for them to source a certain packaging system or so on. So yeah, but I think in general, if they are they're demonstrating that they're trying to be more and more sustainable and they have valid reasons for why they can't do it, but that they're open to doing it when they have more volume or scale or so on, to justify the cost of it, then I think they should be given an opportunity to at least sort of be on the platform because they are checking a lot of the boxes, maybe not all of them.
What inspired you in the first place to start LiveGreen NYC?
So that is there are two factors there. One is a more community focused answer, and the other one is a more personal one. So I'll start with the community focused one. Several years ago, as most of the world, or at least parts of the world, where news started to come out about like climate change and sustainability in the media, I would read about it and get eco anxious. It's like, oh my God, all of this is happening. And there was science to back it. So it wasn't just, people talking about it. It was like this evidence coming out and it just came sort of one after the other. And I definitely started to feel like I should be doing something. The other thing that the articles did was there was a lot of focus on like government and government policies, and they should be doing this, and a lot of startups popped up to support the governments that were sort of supported by the policies or vice versa. And then there were the corporations, which were also like, oh my God, we have to change our packaging and we have to do this because that's what we need to do, and the consumers want that, and so on. And I thought, okay, all right, so we have government and we have um, corporations, but when it came to consumers themselves, the suggestions were like, well, vote for the right person or party. It's like, okay, great. Of course, that is important. Or, I mean, but for the most part, I just felt like there weren't enough tools and knowledge that consumers could rely on. There was a lot of knowledge, but a lot of those was in the form of blogs or opinion pieces. So, I started thinking about, okay, I need to start making greener choices. First, I need to learn how to live more sustainably. And yes, there was some information there, but again, it was very theoretical. And would have loved to have it broken down step by step, because there's a lot of information coming at us these days. So it's nice if somebody simplifies it for you and says these are the 2, 3 things, do them, and here's how it can move the needle. And then there was another part of it, which was choosing green products and services. Whether I was buying bed sheets or whether I was buying food, I wanted to put in the effort to do the research. And often there was no time to do it. So I would just, because people have lives and jobs and kids and other responsibilities, so it's hard to spend hours doing research for buying every single product out there, and it's time consuming. There's a lot of greenwashing. You don't know what to believe. So there's a lot of confusion for consumers. Um, so anyway, coming back to the question for the community part, I said, okay, so we need governments, corporations, and consumers, and that trifecta to make this happen. And because there were limited tools and resources for consumers, I wanted to create it. And I did wait, right? I didn't, I didn't jump into it when I started making these sort of connecting these dots. I still gave it 5, 6 years before I actually started this business, because I kept thinking somebody else is going to do this. And, it hadn't quite happened in the way that I needed it to happen. The other reason is that what inspired me is more personal, which is that as all this information started coming out, I became very dissatisfied with what I was doing in terms of work at the time. Yes, it was impactful in some ways and so on, but I just felt like it wasn't where my heart was. Like I really wanted to make impact and give others the opportunity to make impact. So yeah, so that's basically why I, created Live Green or started Live Green.
And you said it has a community component. What is the community aspect? Are there going to be events, or is it a virtual community? We definitely all need more community, especially as so many of us are working virtually now.
Absolutely. Yes, both of those. So in terms of events, we're having a lot of events for bringing people together. I had one recently. We had one recently a week ago on composting, which is basically where you convert food waste into soil mulch that can be returned to the soil, and it provides nutrition and so on. And composting is becoming mandatory in all 5 boroughs of New York in October. It's already mandatory in a few places, a few zip codes, but it's becoming, basically all over the city very soon. But a lot of people either don't know about it, or they again get intimidated by composting. It's like, oh my God, like I don't know how to do this. How is it done? Where do I drop it off? How will my kitchen smell? And all of those things. So we had an event where we brought people together and said, okay, here's how to do it. Just again, keeping it very simple, but also showing them impact, which is that we this is, of course, these are not perfect numbers, but just back of the envelope calculations, an individual in New York City creates about 175 pounds of food waste in a year, which is a lot. And when that goes into landfill, it is a lot. And that's multiplied by million people who live in the city, right? I think it's actually 8.4 million. So that is a lot of food waste that we could divert away from landfills. So kind of showing them that impact too, that hey, if you were to just do this, even if you did it once in a while, you would make impact. And if you did it every day, of course, that impact would just compound. So yeah, so that's how we're sort of bringing community together and helping them create impact in a very easy way through the events and workshops. But currently, we're also working on a community page on the website, which is not live yet, but it will be, where we want individuals who are making change to just speak up on what they're doing and inspire others to kind of do it. You know, these are regular people who are just creating so much change. So yeah, we're really excited about the virtual community as well, which is coming soon.
Yeah, and just so anyone listening, we're recording this on June 24th, 2024. So whenever you're listening, maybe the website community will be ready. So definitely be sure to check that out and the show notes. So are there any brands that you're really excited about on the website?
Yeah, so we have different businesses, brands, and resources on the website that are categorized by, based on their the sort of food category they fit into. But one of them is um, climate smart foods, and I'm really excited about those companies that are a part of that category. They are, ones like there's Nuthatch, which I mentioned previously, which is run by women New Yorkers, and as I said, local plant-based milk on demand. Another one is Yolele, which is a brand based in New York, which promotes fonio-based products, and fonio is a climate resilient grain. It doesn't need too much water. It grows very easily. It grows in West Africa, but eventually I'm sure it'll grow in more places as well.
How is that spelled? What's it called?
It's fonio. It's FONIO.
And it's a
And
plant. It's like a green that grows
yeah,
naturally. Okay.
it's a gluten-free grain, sort of in the
Grain. Okay.
grain, yeah, like rice pasta, sorry, rice wheat, and sorghum and so on, millets. So it's in that group of foods. And yeah, it's if we can sort of it's healthy and nutritious too, because a lot of the times what's good for people is good for the planet, and what's good for the planet is good for people. So that's one point I want to emphasize as well. So anyway, yeah, it's healthy, it's nutritious, it has, it's gluten free, so a lot of people who are avoiding wheat and wheat products can have it too. So yeah, just that's one. Another one is called Waju. What they're doing is they're making fruit drinks by upcycling fruit water. So when you're making orange juice, for example, a lot of it is the concentrate, and then the water gets left behind, and they're taking that water, and instead of throwing it away, they're making beverages out of it. So I'm really excited for these brands that are still relatively unknown, but I love that they can, they're doing such awesome stuff for the planet, for people, and that we're able to give them a platform to kind of, shine and have their products be showcased. So yeah, really excited. People should check those out because they're all New York born as well. So, another point about supporting your local community.
You're talking about local. Do you eventually want to get local reps in other cities? Will this ever be available in other cities?
Yes, great question. And at the time, we're just focused on New York because, as you know, it's a huge market just on its own. And it's a market which I really feel like it's made up of five different cities, right? Because you have the
Yes.
boroughs, you have different subcultures within each of those, and within neighborhoods too, within the same borough. So I feel like for the next few years, it's definitely New York, and there's a big community here, and I want to grow it further. But yes, it's always there's always opportunity elsewhere as well. So yes, eventually, it would be great to kind of do it in other cities as well, because there's need for it in those cities as well.
So, what would you say are the biggest obstacles you've encountered starting this, or just the biggest obstacles about either related to your company or living a low waste lifestyle in general?
Yeah, so I think in terms of living a low waste lifestyle, it's the fact that I think a lot of the times the stores and the sellers need to make those options available to people so that people can take them, you know. An example is like refilleries, which are the grocery stores that have these large bins or containers in which they're bulk and you can just fill your own container. So a lot of the refilleries give you the opportunity to use your own glass container or steel or what have you. But some of them still expect you to use plastic bags in order to fill those in, you know. So I just feel like more and more um, consumers are willing, but more and more businesses need to give that opportunity to consumers. So I feel sometimes that's an obstacle, which makes it harder for a consumer to kind of feel like, well, I don't know if I'm going to get that there, so why bother, you know? So I think there is a little bit of that. Whereas if we made it more and more normal for people to bring their own reusable mug to a coffee shop, you know, and the coffee shop saying, okay, yeah, you can do this, you know, I think that would really help. So I think those are some of the obstacles because that's not a ubiquitous thing, right? It's not like every coffee shop should offer that. And because that's not the case, it's like, oh, why am I carrying this reusable cup in my mug in my bag if I don't know if I can use it, right? So that's one obstacle I feel is there. The other one I think is a little bit of that intimidation factor that I talked about previously. A lot of people feel like it's difficult to lead a sustainable lifestyle and it's hard. And I think that is a little bit of a mind shift that needs to happen. And it's, of course, one of our goals, which is to show people that it need not be that hard. And in many cases, it can actually save you money because, you know, you're buying for the long term and you're thinking long term as opposed to buying for the short term and disposable and single use and all of that. It can actually save you money.
Yeah, that's very true. That's one thing I think a lot of people forget is okay, yes, you're spending more money. Like you'll see, for example, a silicone bag, and people are like, $17 for a silicone bag. That's crazy. I can get the Ziploc bags, but the silicone bags, I mean, they will last for years and years. I mean, they could last your whole
Yeah.
lifetime and be given to your kids. I mean, they last for like, I mean, 50 years. I mean, I can't say for each one, but they
Yeah.
don't wear down, and buy 10 of them, they're going to last forever. And then as opposed to having to go buy plastic Ziploc bags, it's also a pain to have to go buy new things, so it saves time and money in the long term.
Yes,
Yeah,
and microplastics, because you know those Ziploc bags are going to bleed microplastics into your food or whatever you put in it. And they're now finding out how bad it is. So in addition to the environmental part of it, there's also the health, you know, going back to that point is, you know, what's good for health and it's good for the environment and vice versa. So yeah, I
yeah,
totally
aren't
agree.
they're finding like microplastics in blood and in like fish too, like in human blood and organs, which is so devastating. And
Yeah.
then what is it? And like it's gotten so deep into the environment. It's like fish in the deep sea are now filled with microplastics. Am I right about that?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And even breast milk, you know, which is horrifying, right? Because yeah, so pretty much everything we touch these days seems to have any food has even soil because you know some of the soil has microplastics too because we're letting plastic into the soil through landfills.
Even organic, because I think a lot have gotten into rain, and
Yes.
we're all using the same rain whether you have an organic farm or not. I mean, there probably are some types of farms, or maybe I don't know if these exist yet or not. If any of you know of one, I'd love to have them on this podcast, but where they do, they're completely blocked off like greenhouses, and then they do water filtration systems. And I don't know if any of our filtration systems though can filter out microplastics. Isn't that actually an issue that none of them can, correct? That they're
Yes.
so minuscule that we don't have a system that can filter them yet, right?
No, we don't, yeah, which is why it's so horrifying and which is why we probably need to make sure that we're not using plastic. as much as possible, because I know some things are unavoidable, but yeah, going back to the point, companies and brands need to give those options to consumers so they can take them.
Right. And then I think for all of us, low waste can be a little intimidating because you see it there. There's some people in this low waste world or marketing about it that it's like this all or nothing and almost has a shaming component. It's a little overwhelming. It's like people will think, oh, I can never get a to-go cup again, or I'm never supposed to use plastic single use. So I think it can be a little intimidating sometimes for people to take the first few steps. What would you suggest? Are there any kind of easy first steps or easy just daily things people can implement? Because even if you're just doing a small percent, if everyone's doing it, that makes such a big difference.
Yeah.
What would you suggest to people?
Absolutely. So I think, on the topic of food, from like buying food to disposing it, where you can reduce waste along that chain is, to the extent possible, when you go to the grocery store, buy produce or fruit which is not wrapped in plastic, that's loose, and you can pick as many items as you want. A lot of grocery stores do have that option, and of course, the farmers market. If you go there, that's the only option. Um,
Right.
and then also, if you can, store the bags that the grocery store provides to kind of put your, once you've picked out these items without plastic wrapping, if you put them in these reusable bags, cloth bags that you can actually buy online, and to the point that you were making, which is you spend that money initially, but then you can, reuse them and keep using them for the next 30 years. You can wash them in your washing machine. It's so easy to maintain them. So I would say that's one way to do it. When you bring the food home, I try to wash, again, going from low waste, not just in packaging, but also energy. I wash my food in standing water to the extent possible and then rinse it out with running water. So, a lot of it happens where I'm not just so less water is being used. Um, and um, and then finally, compost what you don't use. There are certain cucumbers or zucchini, you don't need to peel them. Actually, it's more nutritious with the peels on. So, I try to use as much of the um, produce as I can, and whatever cannot be used, I compost it. So, like throughout that buying to, using it up, you can be low waste fairly easily because none of this requires too much effort. Once you get used to it, I think habit formation is probably the hardest part, but it's all easy to do.
Great. And is there anything else you want to add that I haven't asked you? Anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
Well, I think what I would want to say is, there's this quote by this famous environmentalist, Jane Goodall. It says, you cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. And as much as the large corporations or anyone wants us to believe that an individual cannot have impact, that is completely incorrect. Like every person can have impact, not only by voting, not only by voting with your actual votes, political votes, as well as voting with your dollars, but even otherwise, you can sort of try to take one baby step towards sustainability, and over time that compounds and we just have huge impact. So don't let anybody tell you that it doesn't matter, because it matters a lot.
Thank you so much. And you were my first guest, which is so exciting, And also, just so everyone knows, we are planning to do some events together. So you can follow both of our websites and Instagrams to learn more. So that's actually my final question. Where can everyone find you and follow you?
Yes, so pretty much all across social media as well as our website, it's livegreen.nyc. Pretty easy to remember. Live, Live, green, GREEN, as in the color, one word, .nyc. So yeah, and if anybody has questions, we're very quick with responses. So just fill out the contact form on the website, or email info@livegreen.nyc. So yeah, thanks so much for having me, Liz. I'm excited for all the events that we're doing together and for this podcast as well. And yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity to share about LiveGreen.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Why Get Wasted? Innovative Solutions to Climate Change. There are so many interesting people doing such great things in the climate space, and I'm really excited to bring them to you. They've inspired me so much, and I hope they inspire you too. So please come visit me and learn more at whygetwasted.com.